The first thing I learned about the Thalric's empire was this: they did not tolerate disrespect. The second thing I learned was that I had just committed it. The docking bay of the Imperial flagship Radiant Claw was a cathedral of power, arched bone metal supports, living banners that shifted color with rank, and guards who stood perfectly still despite being armed with weapons that could tear a tank apart. I had trained myself not to flinch in dangerous places, but even I could feel the weight of authority pressing down on my chest. And then she walked in. Queen-designate HFY of the Thalrics. She was taller than me by half a head, her posture regal, her obsidian exoskeleton traced with lines of molten gold that pulsed faintly with her heartbeat. Her eyes, 4 of them, arranged in a way that should have been unsettling, were sharp, intelligent, and utterly unimpressed. My brain, unfortunately, chose that exact moment to betray me. "Hey, beauty queen," I said, half smiling, trying to cut the tension the way humans always do. Silence fell like a dropped blade. Every guard shifted, weapons humming to life. HFY's head snapped toward me. "Watch your mouth, human," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to slice steel. My heart didn't just race. It tried to escape my ribcage. Apologies," I said quickly, raising my hands. Human cultural reflex. Humor. Stress response. Her eyes narrowed. "You stand before the future ruler of the Thalric's empire and address me like a tavern performer?" Behind me, my handler from the Terran Coalition made a strangled sound that was probably my career dying. "I stand before someone who looks confident enough to survive a compliment," I said before I could stop myself. That was when things got dangerous. HFY stepped closer. Very close. I could feel the heat radiating from the glowing lines along her armor-like skin. Thalric's pheromones hit humans hard, not intoxicating, but intense, like standing too close to a thunderstorm. "You are either extraordinarily brave," she said quietly, "or extraordinarily foolish." I swallowed. Humanity has a proud tradition of being both. For a long moment, she stared at me. Then, unexpectedly, one corner of her mandible twitched. Not a smile. But not anger either. "Leave us," she ordered the guards. They hesitated. I said, "Leave us." The docking bay cleared in seconds. I stood alone with an alien royal who could legally have me executed for breathing wrong. My heart was still pounding, but something else crept in alongside the fear. Curiosity. "You are not like the others," HFY said, circling me slowly. "Most envoys avoid eye contact. They rehearse every word. You speak, instinctively." "Yeah," I said. "We're bad at pretending." She stopped in front of me. "Do you know why the Thalrics invited a human delegation at all? Because you've conquered half the sector and don't want a war with the other half?" I guessed. She studied me. Partially. Then she turned and gestured for me to follow. The corridors of the flagship were alive, walls subtly pulsing, lights responding to her presence. As we walked, she spoke, her tone less sharp now, more thoughtful. "Your species is young. Fragile. You lack natural armor, psychic dominance, or imperial instinct. By all logic, you should already be extinct." "Yeah," I said. "We get that a lot. And yet," she continued, "every projection shows the same anomaly. Humans do not break when they should. You escalate. You adapt. You joke." She stopped at a vast viewport overlooking a star field. "Why?" I thought about it. About Earth. About disasters and wars and stupid jokes told at the worst possible times. Because if we stop joking, I said slowly, then the fear wins. She was quiet. Then she did something no Thalrix noble had ever done in recorded history. She laughed. It was low and unfamiliar, like stone shifting under pressure. Interesting, she said. Among my people, fear is mastered through dominance. You master it through defiance. Sometimes through sarcasm, I added. She looked at me sidelong. Your earlier words. Beauty queen. Do humans often address rulers so casually? No, I admitted. But we do treat people as people first. Titles come later. Ashariel turned fully toward me. On Thalrix, I have never been spoken to without ceremony. Never without fear. Never without intent. And that gets exhausting, I said gently. Her glow dimmed slightly. Not in weakness, but in something closer to vulnerability. The Empire expects me to be flawless, she said. Unyielding. Untouchable. Well, I said, meeting her gaze, from where I'm standing, you already are. You don't need me to kneel to prove it. That was when my heart really started racing. She stepped closer again, but this time, not in anger. You humans are dangerous, she said softly. Not because of your weapons, but because you see what others are afraid to acknowledge. Negotiations stretched over days. Where other envoys had failed, blunt honesty worked. I didn't flatter her empire. I didn't threaten retaliation. I spoke plainly about mutual survival, about limits, about respect. Ashariel listened, argued, challenged. And slowly, something shifted. By the final day, she stood before the assembled court with me at her side. The Thalrix Empire will enter alliance with Terra, she announced. Not as conqueror, not as subject, but as equal. Shock rippled through the hall. Later, as preparations were made for my departure, she met me once more at the viewport. You addressed me improperly, she said. I winced. Yeah, about that. But you spoke to me honestly, she continued. No one has done that before. She inclined her head, not a bow, but a gesture of respect. In the future, she said, you may call me Ashariel. I smiled. Deal. As I boarded the shuttle, my handler stared at me in disbelief. You flirted with an alien queen, he said. I almost died, I replied. Worth it. From orbit, I saw the radiant claw turn alongside our ship, escorting us safely out of Thalrix space. Humanity didn't win allies by being the strongest. We won them by being human. By speaking when silence was expected. Standing when submission was easier. And sometimes, by calling a queen beautiful, and surviving long enough to mean it.